Hey guys, today I'm going to film a tutorial on a little pair of red leopard shoes that's going to be used as the topper for a cake. The cake is not due for a couple more weeks, but I wanted to go ahead and get the shoes made so that I could handle them without worrying about breaking them. So let's get started. I just got it made, and this is the sole to the other one. I like to go ahead and kind of make those ahead so that they have a chance to kind of stiffen up, so that when you work with the top part of the shoe, this part of the shoe right here, it's easier if the sole of your shoe is already kind of stiff. And here's what all I work with. I use rolled up pieces of paper towel to support the shoe while it's drying, and my just regular water with a paintbrush that I use for my glue, the roller, and this little round cutter, and this cutter just to cut the fondant with. And then I have my red fondant that I've mixed just a little bit, just a touch of Gum-Tex with. And then this is the spatula that came with my Cricut machine, but it really works well with my cakes. And I know a lot of people prefer to use an X-Acto knife, but I just learned with a paring knife, and so I buy tons of these. You can buy like a package of 5 for $1 or something like that. So I just buy a lot of those because I use a ton of those all the time. And I have to have a wet rag on hand all the time. And this is my little pattern that I made. I just drew it up on some notebook paper, and then I covered it with clear contact paper just so that it would hold up to me using it over and over. And this is the top part of the shoe. And so anyway, those are the things that I use. And we'll get started, and I'll show you kind of how I put the shoe together. Okay, guys, since I've already cut the soles, we're not going to be needing this piece, so I'm just going to put it over to the side. And we're going to roll our fondant out. And first of all, before we have to determine or whatever, this little part of the shoe, when it's put together, you have to determine which way the little buckle thing is going to go. And I have already made the shoe that goes in the other direction, so I'm going to want it to go like that. So I need to pay attention to make sure I cut my upper part going in this direction. So I'm just going to roll the fondant out. We're going to leave it kind of thick, not real thick. In my opinion, when the shoes are not, real thick and chunky, they're prettier when they're kind of a little bit more delicate, but you don't want it so delicate that it's real hard to work. So I don't really know a thickness on how thick I'll leave it. I just guess. I'll show you when I get it kind of cut. So that's good. And then I'm just going to cut the excess off of it. So always make sure it's not stuck to the board, but I don't know if you can see, but that's about how thick I cut it for my shoes. Roll it, for my shoes. So, and then I'm just going to lay the pattern on here. Maybe I didn't roll it out big enough. No, there I did. Okay, I just put it on here. And then I take my cutter and I just go around it. Like this. And I'll show you what I do when I get to the round part. That's when I use my little circle cutter. That's when that comes in handy. But it's kind of hard to get in here in the middle of this. So when I get to this part, I use my round cutter and cut it out like that just so that it's prettier. Oops, and I don't have any edges on it. So then I take this, and I don't usually cut this round edge here. If I can show you, I don't usually cut that until I pick up. I'm going to go back. I don't like this strap being this thick. I just never did go back and make another pattern after I got that one made. But then I'm just going to come back and do the edges off of it so that I can make it round. And then I just touch it until it's nice and smooth. and round like that. And then right here where you see it's not exactly right, that's where I use this, and I come in and just straighten that up. I just straighten it up with the knife so that it's not bad. Oops. And then what I do is, I don't know if you can see, there's still some edges right there showing, right there. I take my knife and then I just touch it like that and smooth those edges back in so there's no raw edges hanging out, because I just don't like any raw edges. I want it to all be really smooth and pretty. And then I just take and smooth. If you'll run your fingers over the edges, it just kind of rounds them out. And here, where I've done this cutter, so you see right here where it's kind of got that point right there, and there's one over here too. I just take and I use my cutter to nip those off. I just nip those little pieces off, straighten up that edge, and then I come back with my cutter and I bump it. I just bump in there and smooth that edge out. See how that smooths that out? And you don't have to worry about it not being, like here, I don't like, this is not going to really matter, but I'm going to go ahead and work all these edges smooth. Alright, let me put my fondant up so it don't dry out. Alright, and while I was doing that, or right before I did that, I wet the edge. I was trying to show you, I should leave it on my thing. I had wet it with my brush and water. I don't like to get it real wet. I just take a little bit of water and go around the edge. Oops, I'm not in the camera. I've never filmed before, so you'll have to forgive me. I've never had to make sure I was seeing it and the camera was seeing it, and I'm still not doing it, am I? Sorry about that. This is hard. Kudos to all you women that film these tutorials, because I can't see what I'm doing and keep it on camera at the same time. So anyway, I've wet all the edges. I'm going to let it sit for just a second so that gets tacky. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to flip this over so that it can kind of just dry out. And it'll be a little bit easier to handle if you'll let it dry out just a little bit before you start assembling it. But I'm just going to poke around on the edges and make sure they're all smooth while I am letting it dry just a little bit and letting that sole become tacky. And it doesn't take long. So let's take the sole part and come around. And I usually start with this part, what's going to be the toe of the shoe, just because I like to center up. I don't like to guess and start someplace different and then it not actually come together like I need for it to. And then I just touch it to the edge of the shoe where it's tacky, and I go around. I kind of try to work in a hurry, but not like in a real big hurry. Make sure it's all touched down. Oops, my little strap won't lay down. Get over here, shoe. And right there, you just want to make sure that comes together right there. And don't worry about this where it's not looking good right there right now. Let's take and open the shoe back up. And this is where we're going to take our rolled up paper towel. And we're going to lay in here along this side, kind of like the dentist does. When you go to the dentist and he pokes that old cotton and stuff in your mouth. Yeah, that's what we're doing to this shoe. But we're going to put it in here along the sides so that it supports that shoe. It takes shape. And right now, before I finish with this strap, I'm not going to touch the strap again. I'm going to come on here to the sides, and I'm going to work around the shoe and make sure I have the upper part touched onto the sole real well. I'm just going to take my finger and just work around the edge like that. making sure it's all stuck real well and it's laying smooth. You don't want to have any bumps. Oops, and see my paper towel right here is making a bulge. We don't want that, so make sure that's laying to where it's not making the side of it bulge out. And then I'm going to come around here to the back and make sure this is laying down. But do you see how it's kind of going in right there? I don't like that, so I come in here and take my finger and pull that back out, because if you'll notice, a little baby shoe doesn't do that, and we want it to look as real as we can. So I just pull, and since it's real pliable, you can work it for, a good several minutes before it actually starts to set and get hard. Okay, now I've come around here and I want to stop and bring in my other shoe and make sure I'm looking something similar to my other shoe. So they're looking pretty good. Let's work on it again right here. I'm going to, since my sole sat for a while before I started working, I can pick it up and handle it. I'm going to come in and push this down so that the edge goes under and doesn't stick out. It just kind of gives it a rounded over look around this bottom. See how I can't see how it's bulging out? I don't want it to do that, so I'm going to come and just pinch it, make it go under all the way around. Sometimes I don't really worry about that if I'm making shoes, because if I'm going to put a little extra band there that looks like, if you'll notice on some baby shoes, they have, I'm up out of the camera again, good Lord. They have a little piece of kind of satiny bias tape or something sewn right there to finish the edge. So sometimes you don't have to even really worry about that. But I'm going to put another piece in here to pull this up and get this strap positioned where I want it. And I'm going to pull this other shoe back in and make sure. This is hard to do looking through this camera. I feel like I'm cross-eyed now, trying to make them both match. But I want my little straps to be placed in the same position. Well, it's looking pretty good. I think I want to put a little bit more in there to kind of pick my strap up a little bit. I'm going to move that other shoe because I'm pretty good on the placement, but I want to hold this strap up just a little bit more. So I'm going to put another piece of paper towel in there. And, okay, that looks really good. I'm going to take my brush with my water, and I don't like it to be real wet, so I'm just going to touch it onto my rag and get the water off of it, but just barely touch it where this little strap is going to go, and then just touch the strap down and it'll stick. I couldn't decide if I wanted to use bows on these or not, so I'm going to put together a couple of bows real quick. Let me work my fondant and get it soft, but I'll show you how I'll put a couple of little bows together. I may not end up using them on the shoes, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would make them. And I'm sorry if this sounds like I'm loud and you can hear me breathing heavy and all that kind of stuff, because this camera is actually right at my mouth. And I know that's crazy, but that's just how it works to get this filmed where you can see what I'm doing. I've had it in every position I can imagine, but I had it over to the side, but you couldn't really see what I was doing because my hands kept getting in the way. So, yep, I have it right here at my mouth. So, if you hear me breathing, I apologize. I sound like a monster sometimes. Anyway, we're going to roll this out for the bows, but just roll you out a piece. And I really kind of want the bows to look delicate, so I'm going to try to get it kind of thin, so bear with me for a second while I get it thin. And for the bows, let's see if I can show you how thin I like it for a pretty bow. Oops, we're sticking to the board. It's really thin. I don't know if you can see. Oops, let me see if I can make it to where you can see it. This is how thin I like it for a bow. Okay, so I'm going to cut a couple of rectangles. I just like to straighten it all up everywhere first. And then go from there. I'm going to cut, these shoes don't need very big bows, so they're not going to be real big. Actually, I think I'm going to do them a little different than I even had in my mind. That's too fat right there. I'm not going to use it. Let me get back over here on this piece. I'm going to cut it like this. I'm going to save this piece for the middle. These are how big I'm going to cut. I'm just kind of doing this as I go, so y'all bear with me. These are actually a little bit bigger than I want the bows to be, because I think I'm going to put the bows right here on this part of the shoe. I'm thinking. Who knows where I'll end up putting them, or if I'll even end up using them. So I'm going to cut this down like that. And I was going to make like a bow, but I think because I'm going to put it on the shoe, that maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just do a little bow like this. You see how I have it pinched? I just pinched it together in the center like that. And I'm going to keep the little folds in it so that it looks like real fabric. Lighting is not really good in here, but anyway, and if I end up using them, let me move this out of the way, they will go. That's the fun about building little girl shoes. You can just do whatever you want with them. It'll go right there. If I do decide, oops, I'm not liking that. Let's pinch it. It must have opened up on me. It did. Let's pinch it real good like that so that it stays tight. Let me move that out of the way so you see. So it stays tight in the center like that. But I'm going to go back to my paper towels. I should buy stock in the paper towel company because I use a gazillion rolls of paper towels. But I'm going to lay it down and kind of put my little ruffles back in my bow. I'm going to work this other one right quick. And all I'm going to do is I take the little rectangle. Let's see, it is 2 inches. Pretty much, I said a rectangle, but it's pretty much a 2 inch by 2 inch square. And I'm just going to pinch it like that. I'm going to pinch it again, mash it together, and then I'm going to mash it one last time like that. And that's how you get the bow look, like that. And then I take my little narrow piece here. I'm going to cut this because this is too long. And that is going to be about, let's see how long that is. That is exactly an inch long. I'll take my water again and touch it on the sides just a tad, not much. You don't want it to be real wet, because if it's real wet, it'll be slippery and slide and won't stick real good. So I'm going to put that on there. Oops, pinch it together real good in the middle, and then I'm going to work it like I did that other one to make sure it's laying pretty. But do you see how this side is wider or longer, whatever, than this side? Not a big deal. I'm just going to take my cutter and cut some of it off. Not that side. I'm just going to take my cutter and cut it down so that it's the same size as the other side. I'm going to touch it so that the cut edge is smooth. But, oops. Let's see, it looks like the other one. Make sure my little folds are in there real good, and that is that. I'm going to let my bows dry, and then we will put them on the shoes. Okay, when I quit last night, I forgot that I had not done my stitching on the shoe, and so I came back in here, and I don't know if you can see it. Do you see the stitching right here along the edge of this shoe? I use this little tool. I'm not even sure what it's called, but you just run along the edge with it like that while it's wet, and it'll give you that stitching like that along the edge of the shoe. And then since I'm going to paint these with a leopard print, I have mixed black food coloring. I've mixed this, the super black, with some bright white for the black, and I've mixed warm brown in this one, also mixed with the white to give me the paint to paint my leopard. And since I don't want to start and just like automatically do it on the shoe, I've done me a little piece of fondant here that I'm going to play with to try to see how. I'm just going to do this to paint it to look like leopard. I'm just going to paint like that, just daubing it on. You may want to let it dry. I don't usually. I'm just kind of playing to make sure it's going to be the look that I want. That's it. That's the finished shoes. And I'll add a picture at the end eventually of the completed cake. Thanks, guys.